Do you want to get your building approvals moving in Uganda without guesswork, endless delays, or chasing the wrong office? Do you want to get your building approvals moving in Uganda without chasing the wrong office, waiting blindly for updates, or paying someone who doesn't know what they're doing to guess their way through the system? Then you're in the right place. This video is for homeowners, landlords, developers, diaspora investors, church builders, school founders, and commercial property owners, and anyone who is preparing to submit plans in Uganda. By the end of this video, you will understand who controls approvals, who reviews your file, who can delay you, who can stop works on the ground, and what you need to understand before you spend another shilling on the wrong step. And stay with me to the end, because the biggest mistake most developers make is not misunderstanding one form or one drawing. The biggest mistake is misunderstanding the approval chain itself. As you can see here on our slideshow, actually, there's the number of things that we need to understand. Number one is the building permits. And the building permits are the initial authorization to commence construction requiring approved building plans submitted to local government authorities. That's actually a building permit. And the occupational permits, this is actually something that has been spoken about very many times. And it has become quite actually a much talked about issue, especially of late in Uganda. So these are granted after final inspection, signifying the building's compliance and readiness for legal occupancy. Then we have the oversight and enforcement. These are mechanisms by local governments and national bodies, for example, Directorate of Physical Planning, to ensure adherence to regulations during and after construction. We shall actually look at all these different oversight bodies as we proceed with this video. Then also we have the appeals process. This is a structured procedure for addressing disputes or dissatisfaction with the decisions made by the approving authorities. My name is Ebrad. I'm a graduate of Bachelor of Architecture from Makerere University, and I'm going to be taking you through this video to help you to understand much more about navigating the building approvals in Uganda. I've been in this actually for a number of years, more than a decade, and I'm also the managing director of Empire Group, and I'll be telling you much more about Empire Group as we move along. And actually, the next thing that we have to look at actually is the core problem that we have. What is the core problem? The core problem is misreading the system. So the first thing that you need to fix is your mental model. Uganda's building approval system does not run through one desk, one stamp, or one official. It runs through a chain that includes the National Building Review Board, the Building Committee, and the Building Control Officer. And each one has a different legal role. That single shift changes how you approach the entire process. If you think one office controls everything, you will ask the wrong person the wrong question at the wrong time. But if you understand the chain, you start preparing your project the way the system actually works. Most people approach building approval emotionally. They say, I have land, I have money, I have drawings, so why is this taking so long? But approval is not just about what you have. Approval is about who has the power to review, recommend, issue, inspect, monitor, and in some cases, to intervene. Then we come to the big lesson. Approval actually is a chain. And we're going to look at this entire chain. Building approval is a regulated sequence. It's not just a single event. So before you think about speeding up approval, you need to understand who sits at each point in that chain. And that is the real shortcut. Building approval is not one event. It is a regulated sequence of review, scrutiny. You can actually see them on the screen. Review, scrutiny, inspection, compliance, enforcement, and sometimes appeal. That means that smart developers do not ask only what form do I submit. They also ask who reviews it, who decides it, who inspects it, and where do I go if something stalls? If things delay, what do I do next? Once you understand that, the whole system becomes easier to navigate. Let us look at the National Building Review Board. At the top of the framework is the National Building Review Board. And the Building Control Act established the board as the national oversight body in the building control system. It sits above the local approval structures in terms of monitoring, oversight, appeals, and system control. The board is not the office most applicants begin with, but it shapes the way the entire approval system functions. So if you want the cleanest way to understand the board, think of it like this. The board is the national referee, the reviewer, and the system supervisor. What are the functions of the board under the Principal Act? Under the Principal Act, the board monitors building developments, oversees and monitors the operations of building committees, hears appeals from persons dissatisfied with building committee decisions, and determines the fees charged by district and urban council committees for approval of plans, building permits, and also the occupation permits. And it also has an accessibility role. The Act requires the board to ensure that buildings and utilities to which the public has access, they cater for persons with disabilities. That means the board affects your project even if you never physically deal with it on day one. It influences the rules, the oversight environment, the fee structure, and the route you take when the committee decision goes against you. So it's the one actually to which you appeal as when something has not gone according to what you expected. How is the board management structured? And we're going to see actually before and after the amendment of the board. So before this is actually where the system gets more serious. So that the amended framework expands the board's functions beyond classic appeals. It adds the power to hear and determine complaints from any person, a building control officer or a building committee. It also adds the function of developing and implementing a capacity building strategy for building committees and other stakeholders involved in building operations. So that is actually a major shift. It's a major shift. The board is no longer just sitting back waiting for appeals after something goes wrong. It moves closer to the center of system management by handling complaints and strengthening the institutions that are below it. Let's now look at the stronger powers that have been given to the board under the amendment. The amendment also gives the board stronger enforcement-related powers. It may issue stop or evacuation orders where a building committee has failed to comply with the board's recommendations and or where safety is compromised at a building. So that means the National Oversight Body is no longer oversight in a weak abstract sense only. In serious safety situations, it can move from supervision into direct intervention. Actually, this used to be the responsibility of only the court system, but now, actually, the National Building Review Board can go to the ground, and basing upon the amended act, it can stop and tell people to stop building as part of their legal powers. So the board also gains power to guide building committees on procedural matters, enter onto land, buildings or sites where building operations are being carried out for enforcement, make complaints to the police relating to building matters for investigation, and refer complaints concerning professionals to their professional bodies for action. Now think about what that means for a developer. If your team treats the process casually or assumes local inaction means legal safety, or thinks a problem ends at the district level, that is a dangerous thinking. The approval chain now has stronger upward accountability and stronger enforcement links than many people assume. How is the board structured? The next thing you need to know is that power is shaped by structure. Under the original 2013 Act, the board was built as a broad representative body. Its membership drew from building works, physical planning, water and environment, housing, disability interests, professional groups such as engineers, architects, physical planners, surveyors, and lawyers, plus public health, labor, local government associations, urban authorities, and the private sector. So that was a wide committee-style model. It brought many voices and institutional interests into one body. However, now the amended framework actually has streamlined all this. The amended framework moves to a smaller 9-member board made up of representatives from the ministries responsible for works, gender, lands, and local governments, 1 representative from the Attorney General's chambers, and 2 public members nominated by the minister, and 2 representatives drawn from the listed professions. So, the governance model becomes tighter and more streamlined. Fewer seats usually means a more compact decision-making structure, and that tells developers something important. The system is being shaped toward more focused institutional control. So, who has now the real, what is the real local power center? Who has the real power on the ground? Now let us come down from the national level to the body that touches your project most directly. That is the building committee. A building committee exists for each district and for each urban authority, and it is central to the approval process because it scrutinizes and approves building plans, issues building permits, it issues occupation permits, it reviews decisions on minor building applications made to a building control officer, it ensures accessibility compliance for public access buildings and utilities, and ensures the Act is complied with. That is the local power center. When most developers say, "I'm waiting for approval," what they really mean is that they're waiting for action somewhere in the building committee process. So this actually demystifies what is approval. It's actually it's where your building application moves through the building committee process. So that is an institution that decides whether your plans are approved, whether your permit is issued, and whether your completed building can lawfully move into occupation. So never reduce the building committee to a clerical stop. No, it is a decision-making body, and your file lives or struggles here. Let's look at the structure of this committee. The original Act created a broader building committee structure. In districts, in the districts, that structure included a wider mix of administrative, technical, political, disability, police, and executive representation. The amended framework replaces the broader model with a small 5-member committee. The new composition consists of the officer responsible for engineering as chairperson, the officer responsible for physical planning as secretary, the officer responsible for health, the officer responsible for architecture, and the officer responsible for environment management. The amendment also places appointment authority inside local government administration. In districts, the members are appointed by the chief administrative officer, also known as the COW, and in urban councils they are appointed by the town clerk. That shift matters because it makes the committee more technical and less crowded. The core review lens becomes engineering, planning, health, architecture, and environment. So what does that mean for your file? It means your application is not being judged from one angle only. It is being tested across structural sense, planning logic, public health implications, architectural clarity, and environmental suitability. All those actually are now part of that team that is coming together. Now we come actually to the ground level enforcer, who is the building control officer. So this is actually the role that many applicants overlook completely, the building control officer. So the act provides for the appointment of district building control officers, urban building control officers, and assistant building control officers as needed. These officers are not ceremonial. They are part of the engine of day-to-day compliance. The building control officer makes recommendations to the building committee on building plans, specifications of materials and workmanship, and documents submitted with an application. The officer also forwards copies of minor building applications and decisions on them to the building committee for review. This officer also ensures that instructions given by a building committee are complied with. He inspects, or he or she inspects, the erection and demolition of buildings, checks whether permit conditions are being followed, and carries out regular inspections of completed buildings. So approval is not just a paperwork event. It is a live compliance relationship. The same legal chain that reviews the file also reviews the work, which is on the ground. So let's now look at the approval chain at work. Now put the whole structure together. The National Building Review Board sits at the top and handles oversight, monitoring, appeals, accessibility oversight, and fee setting, while the amended framework adds complaint handling and stronger intervention powers. The building committee is the main local decision-making body that scrutinizes plans and issues building permits and also occupation permits, those two items. The building control officer works on the ground by reviewing documents, making recommendations, inspecting works, checking compliance, and following through on committee instructions. That is the approval chain in practical terms, just as you see it on this diagram, which is like a hub. So the building control officer, actually, he follows through on the instructions of the technical committee. So that is the approval chain and how it operates in practical terms, how national oversight, we have national oversight above, there are local decisions in the middle, and ground compliance actually below. Once you see it that way, the confusion disappears. So let's look at the developer advantage. So this is where smart developers separate themselves from the frustrated ones. When you understand the chain, you stop asking vague questions like, who in government is delaying me? And start asking useful questions like, is the issue in review, committee decision making, site compliance, appeal, or complaint escalation? You now begin to ask the right questions. So that changes the way you prepare. You choose better professionals, you submit better documents, you ask smarter questions, you follow up more intelligently, and you stop treating approval like a mystery when it is actually a chain of legal responsibilities. So if you understand who reviews the file, who applies the law, who inspects the site, and where to escalate when a process stalls, you move through the system with much more control. So closing, this is a closing takeaway. Let me say it plainly. The board is not the same as the building committee. The building committee is not the same as the building control officer. And building approval is not just one moment. It is a sequence of review, decision, inspection, compliance, and in some cases, appeal or complaint. That is why some developers feel blindsided even after getting approval, so-called getting approval. They understand the form, but they do not understand the system. Success in Uganda's building process depends on understanding not only what the law requires, but also who applies it, who reviews it, who inspects it, and where you go if the process breaks down. That is the value of this episode. And the question is, We're going to look at this next time. Do you actually need a permit? So now you know who controls building approvals in Uganda, how the power is divided, and why the smart developers focus on the approval chain before they focus on speed. Your next step is simple. Click part 3 on the end screen as the video comes to a close, because that is where we answer the next question developers get wrong. Do you actually need a permit for your specific project, or are you assuming your building falls outside the system when it does not? If you are building in Uganda, do not guess your category, do not guess your route, and do not guess your risk. Click on part 3 and get the full understanding of whether you need a permit and where you can actually be exempted. This is the second part of a multi-part series, and I just want to also tell you about Empire Group. Empire Group actually is a construction company, design and build firm, and we take your project from the concept up to the key handover. We have one team for design, engineering, construction, costing, and property management. Our services include building construction, architectural plans. We also have engineering that includes civil, structural, mechanical, and electrical engineering services. We also do the costing, the bills of quantities. We do property management. So get started today. Contact us on the numbers you're seeing on the screen, +256 704 494 005 or +256 7833 00741. Our physical office is at plot 425 Juko Road in Chibuye in Kampala, and you can visit our website www.empiregroup.ug. Thank you for watching the broadcast. See you on the next one.